Ron Clements and John Musker, co-directors of Moana, have known each other for about 39 years. While searching for film ideas, they pitched a story set in the Pacific Islands to John Lasseter. Lasseter loved the idea, but insisted on deeper research into the culture and environment, leading them to take a trip to the Pacific Islands. Before this journey, the Pacific Islands seemed merely a fun and exotic location to them. However, the trip deeply affected them emotionally in ways they had not anticipated. The warmth and welcoming nature of the people made for an incredible experience. One particularly moving encounter was with Papa Mape, an elder in Tahiti, who expressed how, for years, the Pacific Islands had been influenced by other cultures, and asked if his culture could be embraced in return. This made a strong impression on the filmmakers, who felt a responsibility to honor Papa Mape and the people they met. Their nearly 3-week trip started in Fiji, then moved to Samoa, where they visited Savaii Island off Upolu, followed by stops in Tahiti, Vahine, and Moorea. Subsequent trips took them to other Pacific islands and New Zealand. They sought to understand how islanders who had lived there all their lives perceived their environment and how it shaped their worldview. Islanders described the land and the sea as inseparable. The ocean was not seen as a barrier, but a connection. Dion Fanotti explained that in the Pacific, water is not considered a barrier, but a link between people and cultures. The Pacific Ocean covers about a third of Earth's surface and, if considered a political region, would be the largest on the planet. Musker shared that the pervasive presence of water profoundly affected them, with some people experiencing physical discomfort if away from the ocean for too long. Opetaya Foai described growing up near the shore and being accustomed to the sound of the sea. Moving to New Zealand and living indoors was a frightening contrast. In Fiji, they met Angel, a navigator, fisherman, and talking chief of a village who took them out on the water in a traditional canoe. Angel emphasized the importance of speaking gently to the ocean, treating it with respect as if it were a living being. For the filmmakers, this reverence was new, coming from Midwestern backgrounds with little exposure to the ocean. They had to develop their own relationship with the ocean, noting that neither was a great swimmer. Angel's insight inspired the idea of making the ocean a character in the film. This required reapproaching the story entirely, keeping only Maui from earlier versions, and shifting the focus to the journey of a young teenage girl who dreams of becoming a navigator. The name Moana was chosen because it means ocean in Proto-Polynesian and many Polynesian languages. As they learned about the history of navigation, they came to appreciate how vital it was to the cultural identity of the people. Their ancestors were exceptional sailors and navigators, arguably the best in the world throughout history. Fealofani Brun explained that traditional navigation was still practiced without GPS, using what nature provides to keep their art alive. Academic scholars believe the Lapita people, ancestors of the Polynesians, migrated from around Taiwan about 3,500 years ago, moving eastward across the Pacific. The Polynesian navigators' skill in finding their way across vast expanses of the sea was comparable to the achievement of sending a man to the moon, all without mechanical instruments. Navigation involved consistently sighting celestial reference points, such as stars. For example, Rapa Nui, a tiny dot in the Pacific thousands of miles from other land, posed a navigational challenge that their ancestors repeatedly met long before European explorers. Their expertise is an achievement often unrecognized by the Western world. Navigators relied on memorizing star patterns and noting when and where stars rose at specific times of year. Nainoa Thompson explained that memorizing everything about the stars' positions against the dawn's light was essential for determining location and wayfinding. A gesture for measuring distance involved lining the thumb up to the horizon. Tilting and aligning the hand precisely with the horizon was the correct method. On voyage, navigators could not afford to sleep, as falling asleep risked losing their way. Observing cloud reflections was vital. The presence of green at the bottom of a cloud indicated the proximity of an island. The flight patterns of seabirds were also tracked, particularly in the evening when they returned to land, assisting navigators in finding their route. Scholars noted that about 3,000 years ago, a migration stopped around the areas of Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji. A fictional island, Motunui, would be located in this region. After a 1,000-year pause, the migration resumed, continuing toward Tahiti, then Hawaii, and finally, New Zealand. The reasons for the pause and the restart remain unknown, making for a perfect mystery for storytelling. The story could center around a 16-year-old heroine fascinated with navigation. The phrase heard in Tahiti means, "Look at your mountain. You have to know your mountain." This metaphor signifies one's lineage and ancestors, everything that has led to the individual. Without knowledge of one's origins, true self-understanding is lost. Family is highly significant, extending throughout the entire village, which is considered one large family, not just casually, but deeply. The saying, "It takes a village to raise a baby," holds true, reflecting a very strong sense of community. The village upbringing fostered a strong sense of togetherness, rich not in material wealth, but in communal celebrations marked by singing and dancing. The environment was marked by collective celebrations and shared experiences, which left a lasting impression. On the islands, magical times were spent together in open pavilions where children gathered and food prepared with love was shared among everyone. Village members welcomed newcomers warmly, considering them part of the family, which was a moving experience. A profound sense of extended responsibility and shared relationships emphasized giving over receiving. Observations in the Pacific revealed that teenagers were notably sincere, friendly, and likable. Moana, a character embodying these qualities, loved her people and village deeply. A close relationship between grandparents and children was common, inspiring the character Grandma Tala. Disney was praised for bringing this special relationship to life, especially the grandmother's role in storytelling at the beginning. The narrative included ancient tales of Teke and demons hunting for the heart, reflecting the culture's strong oral traditions, with stories passed down rather than written. Grandmothers on both sides told stories of Maui and ancestral heroes, recounting migration and voyages between islands. These stories were an integral part of childhood, akin to cherished treats rewarded for good behavior. The heart of the story was destined to be found one day. Music and singing were pervasive in island life, deeply ingrained in the people. The singing was unique and heartfelt, with nearly everyone singing well. This musicality was attributed to growing up in villages where singing from a young age, along with church involvement, played a significant cultural role. Singing was a strong communal practice, exemplified by children's choirs performing hymns during White Sunday, an experience that was profoundly moving to witness. Dancing was essential as a form of storytelling, allowing islanders to live and tell their stories together, symbolically sitting in the same canoe and paddling in unison. The movements, involving the eyes, hands, and body, were memories of ancestors preserved through generations. Different islands exhibited distinct dance styles, reflecting a fusion of Polynesian traditions, including Tongan, Samoan, Fijian, Hawaiian, Maori, and Tahitian influences. Hand gestures in dance symbolized elements such as the ocean or grounding. Presentations on the haka highlighted its tribal origins, particularly for the people of Taranaki. The communal spirit and cultural expressions with dance and song were integral to the islander way of life, reflecting a rich and interconnected heritage. Tattoo culture is deeply embedded in the heritage being celebrated, regarded as an essential rite of passage. It marks the journey that every man undergoes when he is ready to provide for his family. The tattooing process is a lengthy, painful experience that lasts 12 days and is considered one of the most intense forms of pain a person can endure. Each strike during the tattooing must be felt fully to appreciate the journey. This ritual fosters a deeper understanding of oneself and the responsibilities involved in family life. The tattoos themselves hold significant meaning, with intertwining designs telling stories about the individual's family and personal history. Unlike books or computers, the body serves as a living record of history. The tattoo design starts with a canoe at the top, symbolizing settlement and travel, followed by a structure representing culture, and finally culminates in a shelter, reflecting that the body is a shelter of culture. For the character of Maui, his tattoos were designed to depict his great exploits in a way Western audiences could understand, while still grounding them in traditional Samoan styles. These tattoos represent his remarkable feats and serve as a means to record and remember stories. The significance of tattoos as cultural markers is deeply respected. Respect for nature is a prevailing theme among island communities. The idea that one does not own the land but that the land owns them is a powerful concept. Islanders understand the importance of nurturing the land to prevent rapid deterioration. This mindset is reflected in their sustainable practices, where everything is used and waste is minimized. The coconut tree exemplifies this philosophy, being considered the tree of life because nearly every part has practical use. Every part of the coconut is utilized. The flesh can be eaten and cooked, the milk is drinkable, shredded flesh yields oil, leaves can be fashioned into brooms, the fiber is turned into rope used for boats, fishing, and building houses. The coconut is also part of rituals and ceremonies, highlighting its cultural importance. This natural resource underscores the close relationship these communities have with nature, living sustainably and in harmony with it. There is a larger message in the storytelling about respect for both land and sea, emphasizing the need to restore balance when nature is disrespected. Island people are often at the forefront of environmental issues, feeling deeply connected to nature as an integral part of their lives. To authentically represent these cultures, local people were actively involved in the movie's creation through the Oceanic Story Trust, a group of experts including fishermen, tattoo masters, musicologists, anthropologists, archaeologists, and linguists from the South Pacific. The creators aimed to ensure that local audiences would recognize and feel represented in the film, especially through accurate depictions of culture, dance, and tattoos. The production team made multiple visits to these communities, exchanging ideas, drawings, and feedback. At times, this led to notable changes, such as altering Maui's character from bald to long-haired, reflecting cultural beliefs about his power and identity. Another example involved a scene in which Moana shows frustration by tossing coconuts. Local advisors pointed out that this would be inappropriate because of the coconut's sacredness and communal value, prompting changes to respect this cultural aspect. Overall, the film embraces and celebrates the richness of island cultures while delivering a message of environmental respect, cultural authenticity, and connection to heritage. A kid acting out by smashing coconuts was considered problematic, so that behavior was adjusted to allow the kid to express frustration in a different way. The energy and feel remained the same, but without disrespecting the coconut, which symbolized the harvest. When work began at Disney Studios, the focus was on hair. Fiona had beautiful hair that fascinated the animators, who aimed to authentically portray Polynesian hair in the movie. Extensive footage was captured of Fiona's hair, swaying, turning, and moving, a process described as hilarious and involving a team of about 20 people. The hair in the movie was considered the best ever done, as it was inspired directly by her natural hair. Moana's hair was said to resemble the speaker zone, representing a generic Samoan look shared by many. At the start of casting, the producers emphasized the importance of using actors with roots in the Pacific Islands. The goal was to find the best actors available. They always envisioned Dwayne Johnson as the perfect choice for Maui and never auditioned anyone else. Johnson valued the opportunity to showcase a culture deeply important to him. Maui was described as a shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, and hero of men. For Moana, the ideal actress was someone from the islands, of the right age, who could sing beautifully and act well. A worldwide open casting call culminated in a casting director recalling a standout audition from Hawaii on the last day. This actress had a unique presence that set her apart, and she felt chosen by the ocean for the role, even though it was her first major acting job. Her connection to the culture made the role feel special. The biggest discovery for the movie was Auli's casting, whose singing during the opening minutes was highly praised, with a mic drop moment signaling her talent. Most of the rest of the cast were Pacific Islanders, except for one role, the Chicken Hey Hey, voiced by Alan Tudyk, who was not Polynesian. After leaving the islands, the team felt changed and gained a new perspective. They acknowledged that humanity has created imbalances with nature, noting that traditional navigators had a technology based on observing and being in relationship with nature. The hope was that viewers, kids, and adults alike would come out of the movie with a desire to pause and appreciate nature, like watching a sunset. The filmmakers felt a responsibility to tell a story that accurately represented the culture they had connected with, done respectfully and in the right spirit. The experience was described as a joy because the movie honored ancestors and future generations, especially nieces and nephews who would see themselves reflected on screen. The creators were proud to have contributed to a story respectful of their culture. One contributor shared that their granddaughter had just been born, and they found it gratifying that she would grow up seeing herself represented on screen, specifically in a Pacific context. This representation was expected to empower young women and give them a voice. The importance of culture was emphasized as the spirit and soul of the island, carrying values and life itself. There was an ongoing effort to promote culture to children. A saying from Papa Mape was shared, reflecting how for many years their culture had been overshadowed by others, but now, with this movie, they hoped audiences would be deeply immersed in theirs. Neya Bove worked on visual development for Moana, focusing specifically on costume design. The story takes place 3,000 years ago, a time for which there are no photographic references. This required the team to make educated guesses by exploring various Polynesian and Pacific Island cultures to understand what people at that time might have worn. Their approach involved interpreting historical and cultural details to assess whether certain clothing and accessories could realistically have been made. The process was like assembling a puzzle, combining different pieces such as tops and jewelry to create complete outfits. One notable costume was Moana's father's, who wore a garment signifying his role as the tribe's chief. A leaf wrapped around his shoulders served a practical purpose, functioning as a natural cooling mechanism in the heat. Sina, Moana's mother, was dressed in a sweet and feminine costume adorned with beautiful flowers. The team also created woven ceremonial belts from pandanus, a plant whose leaves were shredded into strips. The color of these woven pieces varied depending on how fresh or dried the leaves were, with different weaving sizes, producing either sturdy or delicate textures. Among the favorite female background characters was one inspired by Vanuatu women. This character wore a heavy pandanus skirt, suggesting athleticism and carrying its weight. Since Moana was portrayed as an adventurer and voyager, her clothing had to be functional rather than merely decorative. For instance, her top was made of tapa, a textile created through a process involving mulberry tree bark, tapping it on a wooden log, soaking it in seawater, and sun-drying until it softened. Moana's necklace was a particularly significant prop, meticulously designed to be unique for storytelling. It featured an abalone shell covered with a rocky layer, which, when chipped away, revealed a vibrant blue color resembling a gemstone. This symbolized a balance between land and sea, reflecting Moana's connection to the ocean, as her name means from the ocean. One of the most important costumes was the one Moana wore as she set sail to discover islands and led her people. Initially, the costume sketches depicted Moana in a dreamy, less empowered pose, which was not well received. After consultation with the character director, the pose was changed to portray her as a strong warrior, a depiction that gained unanimous approval. The final design embodied the spirit of a leader ready to journey across the seas, inspiring anyone who saw her to aspire to be like her. Every piece of the costume was created with love and dedication, reflecting true respect for the culture it represented. The hope was that audiences would notice the intricate details and meaningful symbolism in each costume, and feel inspired by the authenticity and care invested in the film's visual development. The classic Disney movies captivated with their music, which many remembered fondly, even when heard outside the films. Iconic songs like When You Wish Upon a Star have become so ingrained in the collective memory that they seem to have always existed. Disney's music needed to match the incredible visuals, transporting audiences to heightened places and other worlds. This is essential to the Disney experience. A key figure in the project had spent 20 years promoting the beautiful Polynesian culture and was excited that through Disney, it would reach every home around the world. The South Pacific's music traditions are very vocal-centric, percussive, and rich in vocal elements, and the score aimed to keep those features central. Creating the music involved representing a beautiful culture with its own rich musical heritage, blending voices and instruments to evoke the sea, islands, and the sense of feeling at home in a different part of the world. A research trip began in Samoa, with a local superstar joining the team, where they experienced the warm reception and cultural vibrancy firsthand. The team then went to New Zealand to coincide with the Pacifica Music Festival in Auckland, a celebration of dance, music, and food from every island, providing a perfect immersion into the diverse Pacific cultures. The collaborators first met at that music festival. Lin-Manuel Miranda came on board just the day before and quickly joined the trip. Despite being pre-fame, he knew he wanted to be part of the project from the outset. Upon arrival, Miranda won a dance contest by shaking his hips with joy, further bonding the team. In the early stages, the group worked in a New Zealand studio, getting to know each other and exploring musical ideas. Each came from very different backgrounds, from the east and west coasts of the U.S. and the South Pacific, but shared a broad knowledge of music. The car rides filled with shared songs and playlists built anticipation for their collaborative songwriting sessions. Once together, the group had so much fun, like three children, playing and chanting as they bonded over music and the story of Moana. The first song they laid the foundation for was We Know the Way, a natural starting point connecting storytelling with musical expression. As the song developed, each member contributed from their expertise, tying their sounds to the narrative themes. A chord change suggested by Mark Mancina during the first weekend became a pivotal moment that defined the organic feel of the collaboration. The piece embodied the journey of Pacific peoples who had sailed through the wind and rain for 1,000 years. Among those met on their journey was a young man named Igalese Ete, who became a consultant and helped assemble the Pacifica Voices Choir in Fiji. Capturing the Pacific voice authentically meant incorporating the spirit and sound of the region's peoples, which felt like bringing ancestors along and was deeply spiritual. John Lasseter's presence marked a special moment, warmly embraced by the team, who loved the movie's significance to their culture. They shared a song together that expressed happiness, unity of heart, gratitude, and good intentions, reflecting their worldview and the importance of singing as a form of thanks. Getting into the musical pulse of the islands was challenging yet exhilarating for Miranda as a songwriter. The collaborative process pushed him to write tunes he would never have created alone. His goal was for audiences to carry the melodies and songs in their minds long after leaving the theater, feeling connected to the stories of the beautiful people and ancestors of the South Pacific. The team jammed freely until their music genuinely reflected the essence of the Pacific. They found a key change to lift the songs and celebrated discovering Aui'i, whose powerful voice elevated the music to new heights. Her rendition of How Far I'll Go blew everyone away and allowed the storytelling through music to reach even further. The song You're Welcome was written specifically for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who voiced Maui. His charm and charisma made it easy to give him playful, confident lyrics without sounding egotistical. Maui, as a demigod responsible for natural phenomena like tides and the sun, was brought to life musically as a character who could say, "You're welcome" for all he had done, and audiences would delight in it. Because of the production schedule, all choral pieces were recorded before the orchestral parts, layering in Opataya Foai and singers from Te Vaka to maintain the South Pacific feeling throughout. The process felt like invoking ancestors, creating a spiritual connection through music. The collaborative effort blended cultural respect, musical exploration, and storytelling to create something both authentic and emotionally resonant. The work honored the traditions and lifestyle of Pacific Islanders while inviting a global audience to feel their story through song. The process of getting tattoos was described as something that happens naturally, earned over time. The animation team shared that integrating Mini Maui with Maui posed a fun challenge. It was an exciting opportunity to bring together a 2D animation team to collaborate with the 3D team. Eric Goldberg, known for animating the genie in Aladdin, also animated Mini Maui. Many animators expressed enthusiasm for working on scenes featuring both Maui and Mini Maui, eager to collaborate with Eric. Meeting a hero like Eric was a special moment for the team. Eric worked traditionally with paper and pencil, breathing life into the characters. Although the crew was small, their contributions to the animation were significant. Maui's tattoos were an important aspect because they told the story of his heroic deeds. A character named Mini Maui was affectionately developed as Maui's conscience, playing a role similar to Jiminy Cricket but with attitude. The main challenge was creating a workflow that enabled Eric to draw in 2D and have his work reflected immediately in the 3D animation. This process was unprecedented in combining 2D animation with 3D characters. Seeing the 2D character animated over the CGI character was especially fun for the animators. Extensive research was conducted on Maui's tattoos since they were very prominent and closely featured. Experts from the Pacific Islands provided insights into traditional tattoo techniques, including hammering methods that created distinct ridges, which the animators sought to faithfully recreate. Early technical ideas included dividing Maui's tattoos into quadrants for animation. Each quadrant represented a different area of his body, such as a pec or the belly, allowing Mini Maui to be animated independently within them. Clever solutions were devised for moving Mini Maui across different parts of the tattoos. Eric Goldberg recalled an example where the CG animator suggested poking Mini Maui in the belly. This encouraged synchronized animation of finger interaction and Mini Maui's reaction. The team acknowledged that working with a Disney legend like Eric Goldberg was an incredible experience, knowing he would maximize the entertainment value of the Mini Maui character. The integration of 2D and 3D animation in this unique way was described as unprecedented in film. Eric was delighted to be part of the project and expressed that hand-drawn animation should always have a place at Disney. The story begins with a person staring at the water's edge for as long as they can remember, never fully understanding why. In an animated film, effects refer to everything that moves on camera except the characters themselves. However, in the movie Moana, there is a significant amount of magic, with 80% of the shots featuring effects. In 2015, the team started working on transforming a small set of storyboards featuring a toddler-aged Moana meeting the ocean. These boards were so compelling that the team believed they could achieve almost anything with performing water. This water test was the first project handled for Disney Animation, before the software techniques for water effects were fully developed. The challenge involved the ocean opening to reveal a shell, underscoring the ocean's magical nature and hinting at the film's unique tone. This early water test was an internal demonstration aimed at revealing the character of young Moana as she dealt with water rising on the shore. It turned out so appealing that the creators decided to share it with a wider audience. Consequently, the entire story was rewritten to incorporate this sequence, which became one of the film's most special moments. Moana presented a significant challenge due to the large amount of water featured throughout the movie. Unlike traditional hand-drawn animation, the current common practice uses computer technology to create such effects. To address this, a new method for calculating water called splash was developed specifically for this film. The artistic and technical teams collaborated closely to solve problems. Software developers created Splash, much as they had developed Matterhorn for Snow and Frozen, and many other tools over the years. Typically, characters act on solid ground, but in this case, it was crucial to visualize the moving ocean and understand how it would affect boat movement on the surface. A buoyancy algorithm was designed to automatically adjust the height of the boats in response to ocean motion. Simulating an entire ocean physically was impossible due to the immense computational power required. Instead, simulations were restricted to the areas needed, focusing on splashes, wakes, waves, and bubbles forming around characters and boats. The unpredictability of these effects offered an amazing creative opportunity. Even a single line in the script about the ocean coming to life and interacting with Moana required extensive effort to determine what that truly meant. The idea of making the ocean a character involved deep collaboration between multiple disciplines. Giving personality to water posed a unique challenge, since water has no face. The team aimed to convey emotion through the shape and timing of water movements, avoiding the misconception that the ocean was inhabited by a creature. When the ocean formed a shape to interact and then released it, the animation would revert to traditional water simulation, showing natural water behavior as if gravity were acting on the shape. Throughout the project, the team never shied away from challenges, inspired by Walt Disney's legacy of pushing boundaries. The hope was that audiences watching Moana would momentarily forget they were watching animation. If viewers could drop into the film's reality, despite the extensive labor involved, the creators would have succeeded in their task. The demigod Maui was confronted by a demon of earth and fire named Te Kā. Te Kā was a colossal lava monster that interacted extensively with the characters and the environment. Creating Te Kā was a collaborative effort between the animation team, which handled the character's basic posing, and the visual effects team, which added numerous effects layers. It quickly became clear that handcrafting all the effects in the usual way would be impossible within the time constraints. The studio's collaborative nature enabled close collaboration among the character designers, modelers, and riggers during pre-production to define the character's performance and address the challenges posed by the film, particularly the lava monster. Effects animators aimed to reproduce natural phenomena such as water, smoke, and fire. They focused on the heat and cooling of lava as it flowed down mountains, while creating billowing pyroclastic smoke around Te Kā, who needed to appear hundreds of feet tall and imposing, resembling a living volcano. These aspects presented significant challenges. Another major difficulty was that the lava emitted light, affecting everything else in the scene. The team created detailed effects simulations to capture the tiny smoke particles and the interaction with the light emitted by the lava. The character rig was relatively conventional, consisting of controls presented to animators. The rig was essentially a mannequin devoid of effects, equipped with movable arms, eyes, and a face, but without the lava. To address this, a technique called foundation effects was developed. Effects animators created puffs of smoke and flames to dress the character so that, as she moved, some effects would occur naturally by her presence. This gave animators a real-time sense of the smoke's appearance. Before more advanced smoke simulations, flames and dripping lava were added. When the visual effects shots were completed, the team could finally see all the extra elements, such as lava dripping and steam, evoking the excitement of Christmas morning. Working with some of the most talented artists in the world, the engineers designed tools that helped artists unleash creative powers they had not previously realized they possessed. For 1,000 years, the focus was on keeping hair silky and being awesome again. Hair in this movie presented one of the biggest challenges, but also the most enjoyable aspects of the production. The overarching long-term goal was to provide artists with the same creative freedom in 3D hair as they had in 2D, where hair serves as an important character element. Classic examples include Ariel from The Little Mermaid and Pocahontas, both known for their beautiful hair. Although 3D tools are powerful, some tasks remain more difficult compared to 2D. Thousands of individual hairs need to move in computer graphics, but animators cannot control each hair individually. Many have to animate characters as bald or with static hair, leaving hair simulation to specialized artists later in the process. Simulation technology bridges the gap between mathematical calculations and moving objects on screen. Most effort goes into understanding how hair moves physically and mathematically, then translating that understanding into software for artists to use. Early discussions focused on granting animators more control over hair. Previously, hair simulation followed the rule "don't touch the hair," as modeling its interaction with hands was too complex. Since the character is a teenager, the filmmakers wanted realistic scenarios where she could play with her hair, a common teenage behavior. Animators requested the replication of the iconic Disney hairstyle in computer graphics. To address this, a software called Quicksilver was developed. One major challenge was the variety of hair types to support. Collaboration between the technology team and artists led to a new hair system that creates realistic, dynamic, and believable hair. The hair had to react convincingly to wind, water, and intense action sequences. This level of interaction was unprecedented in previous movies. Underwater shots featuring hair posed significant difficulties. However, the new technology succeeded in displaying long flowing hair moving naturally with water waves. One of the most rewarding aspects of the work is not only creating the software, but witnessing the artistic results it enables. The software developed isn't limited to a single film. It was built upon previous projects like Big Hero 6 and Zootopia, and will be passed on to future movies to advance hair animation even further. Each new film raises the bar, offering audiences more visual depth and immersion, and this project achieved just that.